Welcome back to some of the most professional StarCraft 2. I have the pleasure of introducing the Red Terran player to kick things off, the last mech Terran. It's GuMiho. With quite a difficult opponent. We do have a Zerg recently joining Team Basilisk, whom I'm sure is happy with the pickup because, of course, it is the finisher. Serral. The multi-world champion, ranked the #1 Zerg and by many, the #1 player in the game currently, and, well, essentially of all time. Have your debates, but make them quick after you like and subscribe, because already a Reaper from GuMiho has gone directly into Serral's base. Serral snuck a few of the Zerglings out early and has taken 3 hatcheries on top of that. Zerglings missed the mark a bit. GuMiho, a undefended command. Oh. Serral already off to a strong start. Going to be able to delay that first command center. I think SCVs may have to be pulled. Quite a delay to kick things off. Definitely not what you want to start with against one of the most fearsome, if not the most fearsome opponents in the game. Well, an inauspicious opening. It was a very early speed with plenty of... You really don't want to lose that command center. A Reaper and a Hellion aren't going to be quite enough in many cases to outright stop it. But with a few Marines joining up, it looks like GuMiho going to be well off enough to finish that command center. So, following it up with a medevac. How much did Serral see? He got the gist of it out here. And in fact, one of the overlords, a bit out of position, will be picked off. There shouldn't be anything to really deal with it. A couple more Marines coming down. GuMiho built enough of them to ward off the small scattering of lings that Serral used early. And now, we'll secure his natural. Definitely a delay. An awkward HP on the orbital command, though unlikely to die to anything that wouldn't also just win the game. GuMiho picks up those Marines. Maybe the poor man's Viking here. We will have to see. I don't expect it. Yeah, he's hunting overlords. Not really a poor man's Viking, just an alternative Viking. Yes, combined they do cost way more. But the threat of Marines in your base is always something good to impose if you can do it relatively cheaply. Serral does have a Roach Warren on the way. Though, well, keeping his options open. I'm not sure he's going to be using that for any sort of all-in, but the Hellions may tip his hand here slightly. The Zerglings wrapping around using that creep in order to get a better surround on the Hellions. And, well, GuMiho does not look like he's going to be ending up with much damage dealt. And not going with his trademark, but instead going to opt for some bio play. As Stim Pack is already on the way. GuMiho, +1 infantry weapons as well. Going to hold the door with a handful of Zerglings here, and of course, the Marines reinforcing to drive the rest away. So, Serral off to a comfortable start. That Roach Warren has regained popularity yet again, not just as an all-in tool in the early game, but just to have the option of roaches to threaten them in the mid-game. We've seen something of a resurgence of roach timings, led by the Dark Lord himself. Dark. The pun works too well, but overall, roaches... The one thing you conserve with roaches over Zerglings is larva. As, of course, one roach can serve a lot more than a couple Zerglings in this early game stage. But it looks like Serral not seeing them as a short-term unit, but instead something to add into the overall unit composition. As right now, we have roach speed in production. So Serral more than intent on a handful here. He's going to be looking for potentially just roaches as time goes on, because I got to point out a severe lack of a baneling nest, which would indicate any sort of real commitment to the Ling-Bane composition. I imagine once he figures out this is indeed bio, he's going to want some of those banelings, but a brute force mass roach style can work, especially if the supply is heavily tilted in your favor. So why use a screwdriver when a hammer will do the trick? And right now, well, Serral is sitting on 127 to 104 supply, though the army supplies are relatively close here. Combat shield about to complete. GuMiho lining up a pretty solid timing to deal with this Roach Ravager. Speed might be done, but no upgrades. In comparison to the +1 Marines, no Marauders, unfortunately, but the Infestation Pit is potentially vulnerable with 3 Siege Tanks. A lot of trouble for Serral here, as the Siege Tank's unloading. The hatchery going down provokes the attack. GuMiho maneuvers into position to body block with the Marines. All 3 tanks still intact, and Serral, his assault fails. And now his 3rd base will be taken down. The Infestation Pit alongside it, getting no benefit. Just a waste of money there. The Roaches are no match for this amount of Marines and tanks, and GuMiho will use this as a stepping stone to potentially go for the game. And the Roach Warren itself is vulnerable. Without it, you can't morph any more Ravagers, let alone build Roaches. +1 Carapace about to complete, +1 attack for the Roaches. Not too far off. GuMiho has gotten a 3rd command center behind this. 1 tank? No, doesn't even get all 3 corrosive bios. The only saving grace here, even drops a mule, so BM. Well, wait. Oh, the repair wasn't quite quick enough, but a repair mule. GuMiho, of course, understanding the value of repairing mech units. But the attack has slowed down a bit. GuMiho doesn't have too much more happening besides continued reinforcement. So Serral has been given a bit of time to rebuild, even though he did have to rebuild the Roach one. I believe it's in his main base now. The tanks are repaired to full by that mule. Marines are diving in towards the main, finding a few overlords where they least expected to be killed, and actually going to supply block Serral, who's making a lot of these little mistakes you don't expect to see. But so far feels a bit off when it comes to, oh, GuMiho finding some real confidence here with his micro as well. Serral not used to being on this back foot with such an awkward unit composition. And those tanks continue unloading terrible, terrible damage on anything that gets close. Those Roaches ill-suited to deal with the entrenched tanks here. And here comes GuMiho, continuing to reinforce the push. One of the tanks, GuMiho tried to save it, gets picked off. And cutting off the reinforcements pretty regularly. Serral has not died. That is the most important part of this. The Liberator's in position here. More Roaches coming in from the north. Still, the just enough bio units seem to remain. The last medevac, though, losing a few. More reinforcements coming down. Serral pinned up against his natural ramp. And that is a very concerning place to be for a Zerg player with less supply. Trying to make those corrosive bios land. Desperate right now is Serral, who has now losing the creep in the most important spot where he's trying to fight. The Liberator's the backstop here, though not quite a part of the fight. As the Roaches get close, may lose 1 or 2 more tanks. The Ravagers don't take the bonus damage as they are not armored units from the tanks, but they're pretty fragile in and of themselves. GuMiho's starting to run kind of dry on units, but Serral is down to 100 supply. He's got 2-2 on the way. The one thing he invested in was those upgrades. A Spore Crawler close enough to actually take out a Liberator here? Well, if the Siege Tanks don't get to it first. Looks like he will lose the Liberator. GuMiho, it feels like one good solid attack. Oh no, the double kill! He stacked up the Liberator and the tank to perfectly deal with this. Now there are 5 medevacs left over. Try to deal with that last Ravager. But Serral, against very significant odds, comparing the armies at one point, will live. I can't tell if that SCV, it looks like he's actually scouting. It was intentional. It wasn't just something he threw out there in haphazardly. But GuMiho does not successfully finish Serral off, despite the supply advantage, despite the army composition. He just couldn't quite find that killing blow. And that does make me concerned for the Korean Terran, as he had a significant advantage. Roach Ravager does not pound for pound trade with Bio and Tank. That is simply not how it works. But Serral made it happen. The Overlord spots the Doom drop with essentially everything. GuMiho realizes it, so there's no creep tumors here for vision. So GuMiho successfully evaded the Roach Ravager, but I feel kind of spoiled his advantage by taking so long and redirecting the drop anywhere else. And now Serral has Infestors on the way. He's got 2-2 done. GuMiho not risking it until his own 2-2 completes. And once again, GuMiho's army in a heads-up fight should win. And should win quite handily. But Serral overall has been able to evade him. There's a few Infestors on the way. A couple Fungals can make all the difference. GuMiho clearly chasing some of them down. He spotted them on the high ground there. And now, Serral's one card that he might have been able to play has been revealed. GuMiho once again loading up. How many? I'm not even sure he knows how many medevacs he's going to load up before he does it. But he lands on 4 as the number. And we'll see how many of those 4 end up landing anywhere Serral isn't already ready for them. But 192 to 168 supply. I got to keep going over how poor this unit composition is for Serral, especially against equally upgraded Terran. It's going to come down to getting the perfect Fungals combined with perfect Corrosive Bile, and even then, it's going to be difficult. Well, Corrosive Bile, Fungal, looking good so far. Great chaining, adds more. Is that the critical mass that was needed? Another Infestor wanders into the fray. Serral, a bit haphazard. Gets almost everything he needed. Unfortunately, those last 2 Infestors were taken out before they could participate. So, spoiling the taste of that victory a bit. But still, GuMiho with more than enough supply. You can tell GuMiho he's got the right idea. But his execution, especially with Bio, is... micro is not the strong suit. He knows the right moves to make, but can he make them quickly enough to compete with Serral here? There's just... oh, he's 4 energy short. 4 energy, and he catches him on the ramp and melts him with Corrosive Bile. But that 4 energy might be all the difference, as now there's just a huge amount of Terran. Corrosive Biles land, but the front line is more than enough. And GuMiho runs down Serral in game 1. Not what I expected to be saying, as Serral chose that Roach Ravager composition against, well, essentially exactly the opposite of what it counters. And not even Serral can make that particularly square peg fit in a round hole. And, well, I don't know if we'll be seeing it again in those circumstances, but game 1 to GuMiho. We shift to game 2 here on Ancient Cistern. We changed the colors just to make it more confusing. Gotta keep the casters on their toes, but I, after nearly 13 years of StarCraft 2 experience, am confident in saying that that's a Zerg player right there. You can tell by the way he is. Isn't that neat? For more tips, like and subscribe. But, despite trying to evade my detection, I know Serral here, in the bottom left of Ancient Cistern. GuMiho in the top right. Oh, that was a bit, quite an awkward game. as GuMiho struggled to press the advantage he so clearly had. And Serral, with his less than ideal tools, even though he delayed GuMiho's expansion, he did it at the cost of his own economy. Because, now, even more math tips here. When you build Zerglings, those Zerglings, believe it or not drones. So in going for even 8 Zerglings and a quicker Zergling speed, Serral kind of hamstrung that early economy, apparently enough that GuMiho was able to get a leg up. And another thing GuMiho did, he didn't go 3 command center. I think I failed to point it out at the time, but he went for a 2-base timing instead. And the speed of the follow-up attack, I think, caught Serral a little off guard. Because with 3 command centers, you're not going to be slapping down those extra barracks nearly as quickly. And without those extra barracks, you can't really have the critical mass of Marines. I was going to say Marauders, but it was Marines. And tanks to follow it up. So. Game 2. I don't know. I don't think we'll see roaches again. Maybe if GuMiho really commits to the mech, but... The Zerglings found out. Serral did try another pool first, but this time GuMiho, I don't know if the timing was off or he was looking for him, but either way. Not an all-in or anything, but just trying to get the Zerglings out there. Keep them busy, and once again, I think GuMiho will get his command center. No, it won't be delayed. At least not long. Unless he loses the... not ideal. It's gonna be... He loses an SCV. It's gonna take a second to bring the next one down. Reaper spots the 3rd here, and this time around, GuMiho is opting for 3 command centers. Was that spotted? Oh. That's unfortunate. Not really something you want Serral to know about the moment it's happening. So Serral now knows, without a shadow of a doubt, that there are 3 command centers. So even if GuMiho feigns any sort of aggression, it's not going to have any teeth. Not really. As you just simply cannot follow up any sort of really early pressure. Particularly quickly if you invested that much extra in a 3rd command center. Of course, quite quickly, that 3rd command center will pay off. But this gives Serral a little more breathing room. Guaranteed breathing room, not assumed breathing room. Marginally different. That barracks is floating. He did not notice that the Overlord snuck backwards here. No. There's no Overlord there. Barracks is coming back. Banshee is on the way, but I already have my suspicions that we're not going to be seeing. And then he's going to slap down a command center here. But he built 2 more gases. I'm pretty sure GuMiho's going mech. So the Overlord going to come in. Might notice the barracks. The tech lab means nothing. Well, it means something, but I wouldn't trust that tech lab to be for stim right now. Because GuMiho added 2 gases on. Which is... I don't know if Serral didn't see the gas on the low ground. We will see momentarily. He does start stim. He knows he killed the Overlord. So despite everything, it appears GuMiho will still go bio. The tech lab was spotted by Serral's Ovi. But he doesn't know for sure it's a Banshee, at least not quite yet. A Roach Warren is on the way, but this feels a lot more like a safety warning. Like a... he may very well be going mech. And Roaches do have a lot more purpose, as Hellions in many ways invalidate the Zerglings, at least for a time. I'll see if Serral gets baited into Roaches yet again. I feel like just knowing he was playing GuMiho was part of why he went Roaches in game 1. Only to get a bit bamboozled. Well, 4 barracks on the way, so not nearly as early of a barracks push this game, as clearly the 3rd CC is here, but So trying to get some of that info. He's up to, going on 60 drones. GuMiho not slouching. Over 50 SCVs and counting now. Baneling nest on the way. So acknowledging indeed that banelings may be a better choice. Hellions still looking for any opportunities or making opportunities to kill some of those creep tumors. Ravager Lingbane or Roach Lingbane. Definitely a good way of running over a Terran player. We've seen GuMiho play that tank-flavored bio, where the tanks just hold down these strong positions and eventually shoulder you out of the game. He did that to an extent last game. We've seen GuMiho go up against Solar, against Dark, and even though both those Zergs quite good at picking you apart, GuMiho just has this kind of a strong-headed method of carving up the map and finding those siege tank spots. So I wouldn't count him out, even against a more... I don't know, like he's up a game. It just feels weird for anyone to be up a game against Serral, alright? It's just, it goes against nature. At least Abathur might say so. Bio army moving out. Or at least the Medivacs. Banshees clearing up the creep. So far, Serral's creep, pretty lackluster. GuMiho's made sure of that. Fourth hatchery. Completes to the left side of the map. Combat shield about to complete as well for GuMiho here, who does maintain an upgrade advantage. He finished 1-1. He already started 2-2 that moment, which will give him about a minute ahead of Serral's upgrades. And that could be a very long minute for Serral. Either now or when 2-2's finishing. Hellbats on the way to tank some damage. Kept those Hellions alive, and here come the tanks. A hearty push here for GuMiho. The Hellbats, a bit of an unhappy surprise. The tanks as well. Hasn't actually sieged both up. Finds one. Another one almost in range, if not in range. I think barely in range of that hatchery. So there's a timer on this, but 5 more seconds for Serral, and his 1-1 will be done. A huge part of dealing with this. Corrosive Bio Lance forces the Marines slightly out of position. The Banshees will be driven away by the Queens. Once again, a hatchery getting very close to dead. The Banelings rolling through, mostly on creep. But the positioning is just jamming up so many of the Banelings. Enough of them trickle through, though. The tanks are taken out. And it appears that little bit of extra time that Serral had this time around is going to make all the difference. Oh my, look at the supply. GuMiho lined up a good position. He had plenty of units. And he had a strong composition. But Serral holds on to the hatchery. And a near 60 supply lead. And not just that. He also has a hive complete. Vipers in production. You can't give him any space. I really liked how GuMiho handled the first game. Just hitting Serral before he could really hit his stride. But he's striding right now. Somehow, this relatively unassuming man is taking 10 steps at a time. Fedora in hand and Ultraless Cavern in production. Serral is not too far away from running away with this game. GuMiho needs to make big moves now, before the Ultraless Cavern is done, before the Vipers can really get involved. I don't even know if he realizes the threat he's under. He doesn't know about the hive being done. And 10 minutes in, you do not expect Vipers to be on the field, let alone Ultralisks. He's not even remotely close to Ghosts. He's building only a handful of Marauders. You do have to cut some corners after losses like that. Parasitic Bomb. GuMiho splits, but it's gonna be a bit of a shock. Another Parasitic Bomb. Clearly struggling to split these off. At least they don't stack. Adrenal Glands is done, but the hive has been revealed now. He drives the army away. GuMiho gonna take a 4th? He's gonna pick up a couple medevacs. There is a world where if Serral has a few haphazard attacks, then maybe GuMiho can put together the right army to deal with this. But Serral is not making that. He's at 90 drones. He's started 3-3. GuMiho will maintain a 3-3 advantage. Chitinous plating with ultraless speed queued up behind it. The Smoltralisks, actually a little smaller than Ravagers now with the newest patch, should be more than enough to close the distance, let alone the Vipers. Ghost Academy's on the way though. 3-3, and Serral has bid his time for quite a while here. And GuMiho's up to 180 supply. Vipers at full energy. Zerglings making their way through. Widowmine tries its best. Another blinding cloud maybe? Looking for more units. Widowmine, parasitic bomb. In the midst of the medevacs there. Taking a lot of damage from the parabomb, but can be repaired. Oh, GuMiho, definite select all army. Take some of the drop medevacs with everything else. This medevac's so softened up here. Corrosive Bile knocks out the mines, consuming the most vulnerable hatchery. GuMiho has a decent army here, but another parasitic bomb could wipe out all the medevacs if GuMiho isn't careful. And so far, he hasn't been particular. He's straying into the bomb! Okay. Holds on for now. He's okay. For now. And he's nearly maxed out while building ghosts. So Serral striking while the iron was lukewarm. He does have ultras now, but GuMiho has tenaciously kept up his production. Another parabomb could wipe out all these medevacs, but a wave of mines will connect. Of course, the banelings triggered in turn. The mines themselves go down, but will ward away this first attack. The first snipe comes out. A single Zergling scouts the base to the north. A Liberator looking for anything. Over in that top left corner. Oh, banelings. Whoa, oh, God. One survivor. Unfortunately, just not the damage there to take out those banelings on creep before they roll up and right through. The survivor does as well. The GuMiho, no! Will it burn? Oh my God, just barely. But unfortunately, while one planetary is saved, another is ripped to shreds by ultras and zerglings. GuMiho looks like he's lining up for something of a base trade, which is, might be his best choice, but not necessarily a good one. Takes out the base that eluded him before. There's Zerglings and an Ultra in the natural. The Ghosts are not lining up their snipes. The Ultra's just chewing through. Chippity choppity, get the heck off my property. Well, slicing through the reinforcements. GuMiho did take out a base. The Widowmine eventually finishes off the Ultra. Neural Parasite on the way. GuMiho keeping up his supply here. 132 army. Ghost pretty good against the Zerglings. Looking to finish off that planetary to Serral. Rolling in the Banes. Crushes it. And down goes the planetary, and GuMiho just like that, reduced to 1.5 bases or so of mining. His main orbital is lifted. I have no idea where it's gone. Or will it matter? Banelings rolling into the front lines, mostly hitting Marauders. Parasitic Bomb and Corrosive Bile. A cornucopia of splash damage coming through. One Ultra leading the charge. The Ghosts a bit late to the party. Widowmine connects with a lot of the Banelings. The Ghosts isolated. Might be able to be killed on their own. Saved by some of the medevacs here. The Bio Army as well. Everybody desperate for evacuation. Will find it. Snipes out the Ultra. Widowmine burrows. Big chunk of Lings taken down. But just like that, the supply plummets for GuMiho. There's just nothing left. The reinforcements, 1 or 2 Ghosts trickling out of the racks. EMPs land on Vipers and medevacs alike. Corrosive Bile waltzes through it. The SCV is very optimistically transferring. And GuMiho types GG as Serral just crushes those straight up fights. And it seems like you just give him a little bit of space and he'll take the rest. God, that was a quite a dominant performance by Serral. Despite GuMiho holding on, it felt like at no point did he really, past that first push, get any momentum. Serral showing his world-class macro. Now, GuMiho gets one more shot, one opportunity. Will he capture it, or will he fail to tactical jump in time? That is my opinion of GuMiho and what his strategy should be, but we will see going into Game 3. Who ends up typing GG? 1-1. Serral once again opting for a pool first. He does not. GuMiho does have a penchant for proxy Rex. He's not shy of the idea. It has been a mainstay of his strategies, for better or worse. Usually worse, in my opinion, but I'm not saying it's every build, but it is probably nearing 50% of his series that at least one slips in there. Also, the pool first is definitely a I'm better than you, I need to just not die. And this time around, it's not going to be the quick speed, but instead, just 6 lings to start. I believe this was a little quicker than the others. So, same idea, but keeping GuMiho on his toes, potentially. GuMiho did not even go for a Reaper. He's going for a Reactor first, which may be better, as I doubt he's going to go double Reaper here. So he should have 4 Marines, potentially, by the time, not quite when the Zerglings get there. He's going to have to pull SCVs. So it's going to come down to reaction time. Yeah, not going to have those. Well, go to the Gumi cam.
SCV ready.
Goes to the door. Gets the SCV away. Gonna try to brawl it out a little with the Marines here. Obviously, 6 lings can kill 2 Marines, but he's trying to fudge the numbers a bit. He doesn't know exactly. Like, there could be some more lings behind this, but it's very unlikely. If Serral, for some reason, just decided to make, say, 4 more, then the game might end right here. But, of course, that would be a unreasonable risk for Serral, because why not just zone him out? There's no better way to scout your opponent than getting up in their face and threatening to kill them. Because at that point, especially this early on, they have to show you what they're doing. You will get a beat, and now Serral knows without even... He did luck, but he wouldn't even have to know there was a reactor barracks behind the expansion. So confident in his position in the game, Serral will just get back to macro. Added a bunch more drones, and of course, plenty of queens. Behind it, GuMiho. I don't know if this was the plan from the start, or if he was pushed into it, but the armory is on the way. And it's going to be a knee breaker build. The concussive Marauders. And the the medevac. Thank you. The medevac on the way. As GuMiho gonna take his shot at burning through to victory. A Roach Horn on the way. We'll see how quickly Serral is able to get wind of this. If he gets an idea that this is on the way. Every moment matters. Every opportunity to pull back those queens to a defensive position. Every chance to build either more Zerglings or Roaches. The medevac is spotted. So if Serral didn't know before, Very soon he will. The Overlord spotted the medevac, which means the queens are already pulled into position. Serral very diligent. He always has a hotkey, you can see right there, that has all his queens on it. So you select all army and select all queens, and that second one is usually the most important. Pulls the drones away from the third. The Roach Horn itself provides something of a choke point here. The Concave of Queens. Get off my lawn! I know. Ooh. Yeah, the roaches are out. A few more Hellions show up. GuMiho clearly flailing. Looking for something. Serral lost exactly 0 drones. Oh no. Which is not very many. It is a bit of a disaster here for GuMiho. Well, I mean, it's not good. Is that Burrow? Oh, he accidentally got Burrow. Okay, we've all been there. He's gonna try to follow this up with some bio. And I'm debating what level of caster bullshit to add in here. It's really bad. It's like, if it was Beyond versus, let's throw someone under the bus, Ragnarok. All right, typical underbus occupant. I feel comfortable with that. If it was Beyond versus Ragnarok, then I'd say a medevac, 8 Marines. That's all you need. You got the tools for victory. But we saw last game that even a few medevacs and Marines were no match for a handful of Serral's army. So GuMiho has a not a hill, but a cliff to climb here in finding any path, especially a conventional path towards victory. I do commend GuMiho. GuMiho doesn't tap out, for better or worse. Because Serral could learn a bit, considering his matches against Ragnarok in the World Championships, but I digress. But GuMiho, if there's a 5% chance, I don't know, what's the acceptable number for leaving the game? Because especially if you don't lose your economy, you still have your production. Like, GuMiho's really not lost any SCVs. What is the acceptable percentage chance of winning to leave the game? Especially if there wasn't a decisive battle. And this is with the Basilisk Big Brain Bouts, okay? GuMiho has a chance to beat Serral in front of his own team. New team. I'd say 2%. If it's over 2%, you go for it. You at least make Serral come to you. Maybe he'll make a mistake. Probably not, but if it's the latter, 8%. Well, 1-1's about to finish for the surviving units, of which there are very few. The Roach Ravager will easily be able to, even the Queens are here. That 2% number is reached, and Serral beats GuMiho down in Game 3. As, from that first attack in Game 1, things seem to slide a little out of hand for GuMiho. Unfortunately, we didn't see any of his much applauded mech. Didn't even get a fancy proxy Rex. Serral in Serral form by the end of it, making it look not even particularly close. But Serral doesn't seem to know any other way. Another confident victory for the finisher, despite a bumpy start. Thank you for watching. What do you think? How do you deal with that? Without also being Zerg. Good luck, have fun. I hope I made your day a little bit better. I'll see you next time. Stay chill. Like and subscribe. Yeah, I know. They already heard that. Nobody watches till the very end. Just